The dust of Tres Pedras rose in slow, ugly clouds that clung to everything like old regret. It covered the cattle pens, the dirty saloon porch, and the faces of the men gathered for the auction under the burning New Mexico sun. The heat made the air shimmer, and the whole miserable place felt like a trap. Ayana stood on a rough wooden platform made of broken freight pallets. Her hands were tied behind her back with rope so tight it had rubbed her skin raw. A dark bruise marked her jaw, shaped like a thumb. She kept her chin high anyway. She would not bow. She would not show fear. She was one of a dozen native girls dragged here after raids and massacres, taken from different tribes, survivors turned into trophies. Men stared at them like they were animals. Some laughed, some whispered, some waited with hunger in their eyes. Sipes, the auctioneer, wiped the sweat from his greasy forehead. He had tobacco stuck in his teeth and a voice that scraped like gravel. "Look here, gentlemen," he called out. "Strong girls, hard workers, and warm on a cold night. No papers, no trouble. What am I bid?" The crowd pushed closer. Miners with coal-black hands, ranch hands with sunburned faces, drifters who hadn't washed in months. They smelled of whiskey, loneliness, and something darker. Ayana kept her eyes on the mountains. She clung to the memory of her tribe, her father's voice, her mother's stories. Her people had taught her pride. Even now, covered in dust, dressed in torn clothes, she stood like a daughter of a chief. One by one, the girls were sold. $1, $1.50. 75 cents. A small, crying girl went for almost nothing. Each sale felt like another piece of the world breaking. Then Sipes grabbed Ayana's arm and shoved her forward. "And this one," he said. "Apache. A wildcat. She ain't broken. She'll fight you every step. For the men who like a challenge, here she is. What'll you give me?" The men laughed. 50 cents, someone called. 50, for her, Sipes barked. "She'll slit your throat in your sleep, Jeb." "Maybe I won't sleep," Jeb cackled. Ayana stared straight ahead. She refused to look at the crowd. She refused to let them see her anger, her fear, her hunger. Inside her, rage burned like a cold stone. They wanted to make her less than human, but she would not break. 50 cents once, Sipes called. Then a voice cut through everything. $2. The whole crowd turned. Even Sipes blinked in surprise. A tall cowboy stood near the water trough. He hadn't been there a moment ago. Or maybe he had, standing quiet like a shadow. His hat was low on his forehead. His clothes were simple. Canvas coat, worn boots, a faded shirt. But the scar on his face set him apart. A pale line running from his cheekbone to his jaw. Sipes grinned. "Well now, Silas McCrae, didn't take you for a man of taste. $2 it is. Anyone say 2 1/4? No one spoke. Men shifted, muttering under their breath. What the hell's he want with an Apache? Knew he was strange. "Engine lover." Silas ignored them. He walked forward slow and steady. He placed 2 silver dollars on the table. The coins clinked. The sound was final. "Sold," Sipes said quickly. "She's yours, Silas. Good luck." Quote. Silas stepped onto the platform. Ayana tensed. This was the moment. The first strike. She waited for the blow. But it didn't come. He didn't grab her. Didn't shove her. Didn't touch her skin. Instead, he pulled a knife from his belt and reached behind her. With one clean slice, he cut the ropes. They fell to the ground like dead snakes. Ayana rubbed her burning wrists. She stared at him with pure hatred. He nodded toward the ground. "Get down." She stayed still. Her voice came low, rough from thirst. "You'll regret this." He didn't blink. "I won't obey," she said. Silas McCrae didn't argue. He didn't threaten her. He turned and walked toward his horse, expecting she would follow. For a moment she considered running. But the crowd watched her like vultures. If she fled, they would catch her, hurt her, maybe kill her. She slid off the platform. Her legs almost gave out. She hadn't eaten in 2 days. Silas cupped his hands, offering to lift her onto the horse. It was not an order. It was an unexpected sort of gesture, almost respectful. She slapped his hands away. He sighed, not angry, just tired. Then he picked her up by the waist, strong hands but not cruel, and set her sideways on his bay horse. She froze, shocked. He didn't mount. He walked. He led the horse straight through Tres Pedras. Men stared. Women whispered. Children pointed. Silas ignored all of them. Ayana sat tall. She held her chin high. She did not look at anyone. She kept her dignity because it was the last thing she owned. They left the town behind and traveled into the open desert. The sun sank into orange and violet. The world turned cold. Silas did not speak. He did not touch her again. When he made camp, he gave her jerky and water. She ate like a starving wolf, too hungry to pretend pride. He slept far from her, wrapped in his own blanket. He didn't tie her. He didn't watch her. He didn't treat her like property. She stayed awake for hours, confused, angry, and afraid of what she didn't understand. Silas McCrae was not the monster she expected, and that frightened her more than anything. The next morning came cold and sharp, the kind of cold that stings the lungs. Ayana opened her eyes to a pale sky and the soft hiss of wind moving over the sagebrush. She wasn't tied. She wasn't watched. She wasn't guarded like an animal. Silas stood by the dying fire, rolling up his bedroll. He didn't glance at her, didn't ask if she had slept. He only said, "We move." Ayana stayed sitting, waiting for an order that never came. He simply walked toward the horses. It unsettled her more than any threat. A man who owned a woman acted different. He demanded, he controlled, he took. Silas did none of that. She followed him because she had no choice. The desert had wide teeth and no mercy. They traveled in silence. The sun rose slow and hot. Ayana watched Silas from the saddle. He walked beside the horse every mile, never once climbing up to rest. She didn't know if it was pride or punishment, but he stayed on his feet like he didn't deserve comfort. When the sun reached its highest point, she tried to escape. He had turned his back for a moment to check the mule's packs. Ayana slid off the horse and bolted across the wash. Her bare feet hit the hot dirt. Her breath burned her throat. She made it 10 steps. Silas caught her by the arm and spun her around. He didn't hit her. He didn't drag her. He only pointed back at the horse. "Get on." Her cheeks burned with anger and shame. She climbed back up, her body shaking. They didn't speak the rest of the day. On the third day, she tried again. She waited for a better moment this time. They were near rocks and brush. She slipped away on foot, using the terrain to hide herself. She almost got far enough to vanish. But Silas knew the land. He knew the shadows. He knew the mistakes. He cut her off and met her on a ridge. She tried to dodge him, but her foot slipped on loose gravel. They tumbled together in the dust. She fought like a wild thing. She scratched his face. She kicked. She bit. She tore at him with everything she had left inside her. He never struck back. He only held her down, strong arms pinning her wrists. She screamed until her voice broke. She fought until her body went limp. When she finally went still, Silas let her go. His chest was heaving. His scar was streaked with dust. "You keep running," he said, voice rough. "We both die out here." She hated him, hated that he was right, hated the truth in his voice. He made her walk back. Her legs shook. Her pride burned. They traveled on. The land changed from red dirt to broken stone. A strange, heavy stillness fell over the world. The air turned thick. The horizon darkened into a wall of brown. Silas stopped. He looked at the sky. "Get on the mule," he said. "I will not," Ayana replied. "Yes, you will." His voice cracked like a whip. For the first time, she heard fear in him. He lifted her onto the mule, almost tossing her. He climbed onto his horse and grabbed the lead rope. "Hold on!" The wind hit them like a fist. Sand lifted in thick sheets. The world went dark brown. The storm roared like a monster made of teeth and dirt. The mule screamed. The horse stumbled. Ayana couldn't breathe. Sand filled her nose, her mouth, her eyes. She felt Silas grab her arm. He pulled her off the mule. His voice was lost in the storm. He half dragged her through the howling dirt. A shadow rose in front of them, an old adobe ruin. Most of the roof was gone, but 3 walls still stood. They pushed inside and collapsed against the crumbling wall. The storm screamed outside, shaking the earth. Ayana curled up, coughing mud. She looked at Silas. He was doubled over, fighting for air. His breathing was deep and rattled, like gravel inside his chest. Dust had filled his lungs. He fumbled for water. His hands shook. The canteen slipped and rolled away. Ayana could run. She could leave him, take the horse, take her freedom. He was too weak to stop her. But if he died, she would die next. She needed him. And deep inside, she could not watch someone drown in air. She crawled to him. Her hands shook, not from fear but from cold. She held the canteen to his lips. "Drink," she said. He did. His eyes met hers, surprised and clouded. The storm raged all night. Dust filled every crack of the old mission wall. Silas's coughing was ragged and painful. She covered his chest with a blanket, pressing it down so the cold wouldn't take him. He slept only in gasps. When morning came, the world was buried in dust. The ruin felt like a tomb. Ayana had barely slept. Silas sat against the wall, pale and exhausted. His breathing was still rough, but he was alive. She faced him. Her voice was hard. "Why did you buy me?" He looked at the ruined doorway, not at her. "Because if I didn't," he said quietly, "someone else would have." "That is not a reason. It's the only one I got." He said nothing else. Ayana shivered in the cold morning air. Her thin blanket was useless. She wrapped her arms around herself, trying to hold in any last scrap of warmth. After a long moment, Silas pushed his heavy wool blanket toward her with the toe of his boot. "Take it." "I won't," she said. "Take it," he repeated, voice sharp. "You freeze. I'll end up carrying you." She still refused. Silas groaned in frustration, then opened the blanket beside him, not touching her, not reaching for her. "Get in," he said, "or don't, but I'm not listening to your teeth chatter all day." Ayana stared at the open blanket, at the man who had bought her, at the man who had not touched her except to save her life. Pride fought with cold. Pride nearly won. But cold would kill her faster than a rope. Slowly, she crawled under the blanket. She kept her back stiff, her body far from his. He kept his distance, too. 2 people side by side, close enough to share heat but oceans apart in spirit. The storm outside had ended. But the storm inside them had only begun. The cold mountain air had teeth. It bit every inch of skin as Silas and Ayana climbed higher into the hills during the following days. They left the sandstorm behind but carried its wounds with them. Silas's breathing stayed rough. Ayana's muscles ached from days of riding and failed escapes. Neither spoke much. The silence between them was no longer just anger. Something else lived in it now, something confused, unsteady, and unspoken. On the 4th evening, they reached a clearing with a falling-apart shack built of rough pine logs. The roof leaned, the chimney was crooked, and the place looked as lonely as the desert they had crossed. Silas unsaddled the animals without a word. Ayana slid off the mule, her legs sore and stiff. She looked at the shack with dread. This was not freedom. This was a different kind of cage. Silas gestured inside. "Home," he said. "To you," she answered quietly. "Not to me." He didn't argue. He didn't command. Instead, he went inside and lit a lamp. The yellow glow showed a small room with a cot, a table, a fireplace, and not much else. It smelled of cold ash and dust. He opened a wooden chest and threw a folded pair of canvas pants and a wool shirt onto the table. "Clean clothes," he said. "They'll fit well enough." Ayana stared at them. She had expected a dress, something meant to make her small, something meant for a bed, but these were work clothes. It confused her more than anything else. He started a fire in the hearth, hands steady despite the roughness of his cough. When the flames caught, they filled the room with welcome heat. "You'll handle the cooking and mending," he said. "I'll take care of the wood, traps, and stock." "I will not be your slave," she answered. He didn't lift his head. "Didn't say you were. I said you work, same as me." The first week was a quiet war. She kept to her side of the room, he kept to his. Meals were eaten in silence. Tasks were done without speaking. They circled each other like tired wolves, unwilling to show their throats. One night, as they ate a thin rabbit stew, Ayana put down her spoon. "My name," she said, her voice steady, "is not girl. What is it?" Quote. Silas looked up, eyes dark under the lamplight. He didn't speak right away. She thought he would ignore her. "Ayana," he finally said. It was the first time he had spoken her name. Something shifted inside her like a door unlocking. The next morning, before leaving to check traps, he paused at the door. "Ayana," he said, "storm's coming. Don't go far." He respected her, or he tried to. It was confusing. It made her restless. As days passed, Ayana worked to claim the cabin. She cleaned it until the wood shined. She scrubbed the floor. She washed his blankets. She mended his clothes, not for him, but for herself. She refused to live in filth. One afternoon, Silas returned, carrying his pistol belt. He set it on the table. "You're learning this," he said. She frowned. "I do not want your weapon." "It's not mine," he said. "It's a tool. You need it." He took her outside and taught her how to hold it, how to load it, how to shoot. His hands guided the gun, not her. He showed her without touching her skin. His voice stayed calm even when she missed. On the fifth shot, she hit a tin can. It spun into the air. A small victory, but it changed something inside her. Silas nodded. Good. She didn't thank him, but she felt power for the first time in a long time. More days passed. A fragile peace grew between them. One morning, a soft rain fell, turning the clearing to mud. Silas fixed the corral fence. Ayana stepped outside, bare feet sinking into the cool earth. She lifted her face to the sky and let the rain wash her clean. The movement came naturally, small steps, slow sways, a quiet dance of release. Silas watched her from the fence. Not with hunger, not with ownership, but with something he couldn't hide. Something scared him more than any storm. She saw him looking, and she didn't stop. That night, the air inside the cabin felt different, soft, charged. They ate quietly. Ayana mended a sleeve. Silas cleaned his rifle. Then he stood. He walked to her. He hovered for a moment, as if unsure whether to move closer or step back. "Ayana," he said. She looked up. His scar caught the firelight. His eyes were steady and searching. He reached out slowly and touched her wrist, the place where the auction ropes had burned her skin. Not a claim. A question. She did not pull away. Her heartbeat pounded in her ears. "Do you want me to leave?" he asked, voice rough. "I'll sleep in the shed tonight if you say." "I don't know," she whispered. He leaned down, hesitated, then brushed his lips against hers. It was light, unsure, trembling. It sent a shiver through her body that was not fear. When he pulled back, she drew a sharp breath. "I do not belong to you," she whispered fiercely. "Not ever." "I know," he said, his voice soft, "and I don't deserve you." 3 days later, the world came for them. 4 hunters rode into the clearing while Ayana was hanging dried meat, drunk, armed, dangerous. Silas stood in front of her, rifle low. "Get off my land," he said. The big man laughed. "Or what? You gonna fight all 4 of us for your little Apache prize?" Silas didn't lift his rifle. He walked forward. When the man swung at him, Silas stepped inside the punch and hit him once. Only once. The crack of bone echoed through the trees. His knuckles split open. Blood dripped down his hand. The other men froze. Fear replaced their drunken courage. "Get him and get out," Silas said. They grabbed their bleeding friend and left, shouting promises of revenge. Inside the cabin, Ayana cleaned Silas's hand with herbs and cloth. She worked without speaking. Her fingers brushed his scar. He closed his eyes. "You killed men before?" she asked quietly. "Too many," he whispered, "most for nothing." "What about today?" He looked at her. That was for something. That night, Ayana dreamed of snow, soldiers, and loss. She woke with a cry stuck in her throat. Silas knelt beside her. He touched her shoulder gently. "You're safe," he whispered. She broke. She clung to him, shaking. He held her. No demands, no questions, just steady warmth in the dark. The next days were different, soft, careful, like they were walking toward something neither understood yet. But the world didn't forget them. The hunters spread word. Lies were spoken. A sheriff rode into town with a bounty poster naming Ayana a murderer. Silas went for supplies. Ayana followed secretly. She arrived in time to save his life, firing the shot that shattered a saloon window and the trap meant to kill him. They fled on horseback under gunfire. Run, ride, survive. Together. They crossed deserts, mountains, and canyons. Hunger gnawed at their ribs. Heat stole their breath. Ayana collapsed in the sun. Silas carried her until his legs nearly broke. They found shelter in an abandoned mission. Her fever broke. Their fear broke too. They kissed again. Slow, honest, choosing each other this time. They fought the hunters in a canyon. Ayana shot a man. Silas was wounded. She dragged him away. She killed again to protect him. They survived. They met a kind couple who hid them. Silas nearly gave her up for her safety. Ayana slapped him, furious. "You do not choose for me," she said. "We run together or we die together." And he understood. They fled west, past the reach of the bounty, into a green valley in California, a place of tall redwoods and rushing water. They built a home with tired hands and stubborn hope. They tried to live in peace, but Sheriff Bragg, broken and dying, found them. Ayana fought him alone in the river and killed him with her knife. The ghost that had chased them for so long was gone. At last, months passed. They built a cabin. They lived among new neighbors. Silas made leather goods. Ayana healed the sick. Life became something soft, quiet, hopeful. One winter night, rained, tapping the roof. Ayana sat with Silas by the fire he built with his one good hand. She leaned into him, her circle and flame carving warm against her chest. "Do you regret it?" she asked softly. "Buying me for $2? Silas pulled her into his lap. His voice was steady and full. "I didn't buy you," he said. "I paid $2 for the chance to save my own soul." Ayana smiled and closed her eyes. For the first time since she was taken from her people, she was safe. She was seen. She was loved. And nothing, not the past, not the storms, not the world, could take that from them again.